So you have undoubtedly heard about Chat GPT. You probably heard about various versions of artificial intelligence. Apparently, it's taking over the world. So what I thought we should do is step back, realize we are a real estate and landlord channel, and ask Dana Dunford, the CEO of Himlane, if landlords, folks like me, should start understanding what Chat GPT is and how it may or may not help us. So Dana, what do you think? Should we be learning artificial intelligence and Chat GPT as landlords?
Yeah, I think this is really interesting because, I'd say about 9 months ago, we as Hemling started looking into it and using it just to understand what it was, how close it was to the truth, et cetera, what it would provide to us. And so flip on over to a landlord. I think if I would have asked a landlord 9 months ago, are you using Chat GPT to help you with anything? They
No.
probably would have been like, what the heck, Dana? Like, what? I've
Yeah.
never heard of
What are you doing?
Jasper. And I think part of that is when you're here in Silicon Valley, you're kind of one of the first to hear about
Yeah.
these things, but you're also skeptical of everything. Like, I'm very skeptical of new technology, even though I'm in technology.
Oh,
And
me
so
too.
until I actually use it, I don't, from that perspective, I truly myself don't believe that, I should be recommending it to others until I do. Um, and so should landlords start thinking about using Chat GPT? The high level is absolutely, but like there's the fine print below it.
Sure.
And here's why I say that there's the fine print below it and being educated on it. One of the things ChatGPT has done for landlords or anyone out there, any consumer, is it's helped with writer's block, or it's
Yes.
helped give you a first draft of what you need. However, as it gets better, and it also depends on what, if you're feeding any data into it, which if you're using open AI, you're not feeding your own data into it. Um, there are some caveats there. And as we both know, the landlord business is incredibly litigious.
Yes.
And so let me give you some examples of that, of where you would want to use it within reason. Okay, let's start talking about the start of having a rental, which is advertising your rental property. Great, you could use it to advertise your rental and fill out the description there, right?
Yeah.
However, one of the questions is, what about if they type in great family neighborhood and that's what you get back? Well, that would be a fair housing violation. And so while it helps with a writer's block and for you to quickly think about these things, you still need to do a second review of it. And you need to understand tenant landlord law. You need to be able to make that decision, because at the end of the day, if you get sued, good
Yeah.
luck
You
trying
can't
to.
put it in open AI. You can't do that.
Yeah, good luck trying to. They've got a lot of lawyers. Like, good luck
Yeah,
trying to go
exactly.
through and sue them. And so the reason I bring that up is like everything's within reason. It does help with that writer's block. It does help you put together a first draft. But then also some of the things I think about is like, if you're just making it wordy like that with a lot of words, probably not that helpful. Now, where I
Yeah.
do find it to be helpful and where I do find AI to change things on the rental advertising, then we'll go to other aspects,
Sure.
is public records and public data.
Hmm.
So filling out how many bedrooms or bathrooms a property has, we've looked at that and like it gets it pretty much right, of like that square footage, unless you've illegally and unpermitted something in your
Yeah.
property. And so there's certain things where you, if you're not having to really think about it and it's just data entry, where it does get it pretty accurate. And so that's where I think, you look at today and you go on any rental listing website and you have to type in your number of bedrooms, your number of bathrooms, your square footage.
Yeah.
Does it have a garage? In the future, that stuff will just be automatically checked. And then you'll have to go back through and decide, do you want pets or not? And certain things where maybe ChatGPT could tell you like, oh, most landlords in your area do. So like you should check that box. But otherwise, you're still going to have to think. And so I think it helps with kind of that first draft and
Yeah.
getting part of the way there. But your job as a landlord is to question everything and to question, is this the right thing? So that's kind of upfront.
Mhm.
Then there's the question with communications with your tenants
Oh, yeah,
and how that works. And should you communicate with them using AI? That's another one of like,
yeah,
hey, you. And the question really comes down to, well, what are you communicating with them about? And just like having anyone, like I'll be like, Michael, go read this draft to this tenant, make sure this looks professional, make sure I'm thinking everything through. ChatGPT can still do that for you. But again, it helps with that first draft, but you're going to want to go back through it and make sure it's in your writing, your basically your style of doing it, and has all the facts in there of whatever you're trying to present to the tenant. And so I think it helps with writer's block at this point, for landlords as kind of a first draft. I think if you're just using the open AI, there are certain concerns about using it to think it's going to replace you. It's not,
yeah,
at least at this time.
yeah.
Um, and then the other thing I will leave you with is you can actually put in, if you write something with AI, you can actually put it into programs to say, did AI write this or did it not?
Mm.
And it makes you look incredibly bad if your tenant goes and says, wow, my landlord, it looks like it's AI that wrote this. And then suddenly they copy and paste it and toss it into the program to say, yeah, AI wrote this. It makes you look not that great, that,
Yeah,
from that perspective, that suddenly they're not talking to a human. So, I used to say software is eating the world, right?
sure.
Now really, what people are saying is AI is eating the world. And I actually truly believe that is true. I think it will
Hmm.
completely transform everything. And, in 10 to 20 years, how people interact and how their own knowledge versus what they're using AI to help assist with is going to completely change every industry out there.
Yeah.
At the same time, that's where thinking makes a ton of sense, knowing your industry,
Yeah.
knowing really what is right, what is wrong, understanding lease agreements. I think it's still incredibly important to understand tenant landlord law and all these different components of running and operating a successful rental business, because at the end of the day, right now, it's just helping pretty much with writer's block and helping with first drafts. But I would be very cautious to take that and then go through and say, I'm using some open AI to do it. And the reason I say that also is because I think there were 2 lawsuits in the past week or two of folks suing AI.
Oh, wow.
And both of them had to do with, one was someone who was, it was a false story about sexual assault. And
Okay.
then the other one was something very similar about someone with a criminal record. And actually both were incorrect, but AI was saying that if you search their names,
Oh, got it.
AI was saying that, like, hey, this person has a criminal record. Hey, this person has a sexual assault case against them.
And they
And
didn't.
actually, neither
Yeah.
one was true. But OpenAI, if you think of the sources and what they're using, if you go on Google, not everything's correct, right? You'll
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
so much
Citations are
false.
not a big part of it. Yeah.
Citations are not there. And so you have to think about it from that perspective of always doing that second draft, because at the end of the day, the business falls on you. It doesn't fall on AI. You can't, they're not the owner of the property, so you can't blame them. And so that's the one thing I would say about kind of this open AI stuff. To everything is with a grain of salt, and you definitely need to think
Yeah.
through everything before you submit something.
Yeah. Again, having lived in the Valley my whole life and watched the internet go from nothing to something and, all of this, what I think is going to happen with open AI or artificial intelligence or whatever is there's going to be this foundational functionality, which we're kind of playing with today. I think what happens going forward is, I don't know if I'll call it industries or segments or whatever. There will be a layer or tool on top of that that brings in the knowledge, right? Again, tenant landlord law. That
Mhm.
stuff exists. You can feed that into a, you know,
Yep.
AI so it has it, and then it can have citations, but that stuff won't be free,
Yep.
right? That's not going to be free. But it's coming, right? And I think that's where you're talking about AI eating the world, is how you take this very flexible and, this thing, and then add intelligence with citations, so they could become meaningful. So I think it's going to go from kind of rough drafts and writer's block to something, and it
Yep.
will replace repetitive work,
Yep.
right? But it
Yeah.
will never replace everything, I don't think.
Yeah, it's so true. And it will just get better, to your point. Like right now, people are starting to use it, but there's still, everything's being refined. Like every venture capitalist now is,
Oh
hey,
yeah.
AI company, AI company, AI company, because it is going to get so much better. And I think you're right that repetitive work, or having some single source of truth of like, here's lawyers and all the legal contracts
Mhm.
by county, by state.
Exactly.
Here's really what's right. Here's why AI knows it's right. Here's the source of it.
Yep.
That will only get better from that perspective.
Yep.
And then it's making sure that you understand the dynamics of how is this being pulled to ensure that it is correct. It's really interesting with lawyers, because I think, a lot of lawyers, and in my experience, it's billable hours. They make more
Yep.
money by working more hours. And so having templates and standard documents for some lawyers is not part of their strategy, because they want to bill more hours. And so you sort of see how all of that templated stuff would move over to AI, but then all the very specific, this is my particular case, will stay with lawyers. And
Correct.
so really understanding what is that administrative work that is across the industry as something people are constantly doing, and how do we use data to have AI populate that, versus what are specific cases where you would need a lawyer and a lawyer in the courtroom. So it's a fine balance there, but I'm excited about AI. I think the world has sped up so much in the past 6 months, and it's only going to turbocharge here in the next couple of years.
Well, folks, if you are using AI in your business of landlording or anywhere, I want to hear from you. Let me know how you're using AI or ChatGPT, OpenAI, whatever it is. Leave comments below. Dana and I would love to hear from you. Dana, if somebody wanted to go get a trial of Hemlane, where would they go?
Yeah, if you want to go to Hemlane, we do property management end to end, from both leasing, finding and placing a tenant, to helping you with the day to day. You can go to www.hemlane.com and just mention one rental at a time, because you do get 20% off your first year.
Ooh, that's fun. Thanks, Dana.
Thanks.